Throughout the past couple of years of the MCU, we have been blessed with some insane, amazing fan service moments. And so today I wanted to take a step back and compare two very huge moments from the MCU that people really like to talk about. That is the portal sequence from Avengers Endgame and the Spider-Verse sequence from Spider-Man No Way Home. So let's compare them and talk about which one's better. I have 5 different categories here that these scenes are going to be going head-to-head in competing. Keep in mind, these are my opinions. That said, I did try to make the categories as objective as possible. But again, you guys might look at it differently than I do. So this is my opinion. If you guys don't like the one I picked to win, well, then lucky you, you can prefer a different scene. Because that's how opinions work. So this was originally 6 categories. But to reduce the risk of a tie, I shortened it to 5, so there's an odd number, so there has to be a clear winner. So let's talk about what these categories are. So the first category is relevance to the plot. The scene's importance to the main plot of the movie. Which one's more relevant to the plot, right? That's pretty self-explanatory. The second one I have is the emotional weight of the scene, basically how it makes your emotions go. Number 3 is the fan service meter. You got to get the fan service meter in there for 2 scenes like this that are designed so heavily around the fans really wanting to see it. So which one is better in terms of fan service there? And then the fourth one is, does it work to further the story of the main protagonist in that scene? So in this case, in Avengers Endgame, the main protagonist for the portal scene is Captain America. How does the scene work to further his story versus No Way Home, where the protagonist is Tom Holland, Spider-Man? How does it work to further his story, right? And then the last one on here I have, pure hype factor. What got me personally more excited? This is the one where I really do inject my own bias into this. Some people get way more excited about Portal. Some people get way more excited about all 3 Spider-Men. So this is the one where it's really going to be my personal opinion on which one I prefer in that category. And then there's going to be a winner. Whichever one has majority at the end of this takes home the trophy. And so, just to make clear-cut lines on what the scenes are, Portals is going to be everything from the moment Cap straps his shield back on to the moment he says Avengers Assemble. And for No Way Home, for the Spider-Verse scene, it's going to be when the villains first show up all the way up through when they're swinging together and they land on the Statue of Liberty to throw down with Sandman, Electro, and Lizard. Those are the clear-cut lines for these scenes. I was originally going to do the scene when Andrew and Tobey come through the portal, but I felt like I needed to get Tom Holland in there for it to actually be the full Spider-Verse moment, so we're doing the scene of them all swinging together. Now, without further ado, let's compare these 2 sequences. Alright, category 1, relevance to the plot. As mentioned, does the scene in question, how relevant is it to the main plot of the film, or does it exist purely because it can? So I did give this category to Avengers Endgame. And the reason I gave it to Avengers Endgame is that the entire plot of Avengers Endgame revolves around bringing these people back from the dead, undoing Thanos' snap. And this is a plot payoff, because this is where it works when Hulk snaps, but it's confirmed that it works when everyone comes through to help defeat Thanos. It was, at that point, it had been like, what, 2.5 hours into the movie? No, not even that. It was earlier in the movie. And it hit the entire story of this movie. Hell, the entire story of Infinity War also peaked with this moment. And though I love the part in No Way Home when all 3 of them come together, I felt that that moment was more just for the fun of seeing all 3 Spider-Men together than it actually was of furthering the plot of the film, right? So that is 1 point for Avengers Endgame. Moving on to number 2, we have emotional weight. So emotional weight, obviously, pulling at your emotions. Or what are you feeling in the scene? Is it making you feel something? And this was honestly the hardest category for me to do because Endgame gets me so hyped. No Way Home also gets me super hyped, and like the emotions are running throughout both those scenes, so it's really hard to pick. I did, however, give the medal on this one to Spider-Man No Way Home. I think for me, what it boils down to is seeing both Tobey and Andrew get to swing alongside Tom, because even though all those heroes coming through the portals in Endgame is cool, seeing all just the Spider-Men of movies past all get to join forces and all get to swing together, which is something everyone had been wanting since they were rumored to be in the movie, and they had drawn like fan art and edits of all three Spider-Men swinging together. Honestly, from an emotional standpoint, you cannot top that. Also in that scene, we get some really funny jokes. We get the whole Peter 3 thing. We get the Avengers in the band. Just the banter between all three of those characters is something that really is hard to replicate, and it's so memorable, and that's what really got my emotions flowing more so than Endgame did. While Endgame was probably the more exciting scene, I would say No Way Home was the more satisfying one for me to watch, and seeing all three Spider-Men land on the Statue of Liberty as a team was so badass. Alright, so we're at 1 and 1. 1 for Endgame, 1 for Spider-Man. Let's move on to number 3. Number 3, the fan service meter. What more need be explained there? It's pretty obvious. The trophy for this one is going to go to Spider-Man No Way Home. I do not think that you can top what they managed to do in that. Maybe the only way you could have topped it was having like Daredevil fighting with them and having maybe Miles Morales in there, but that's the only way you could top it. But I mean, like, how do you top that? I gotta single out the part of them swinging again. 3 different Peter Parkers that we've seen, Tobey, Maguire, Andrew Garfield, Tom Holland, all swinging together to go fight the villains. That is super cool. From a fan service moment, that is beautiful, and it is hard to top. Alright, so Spider-Man does have the lead coming into these final 2 categories. So the next category, gotta look at my notes for this one. Does it work to serve the main protagonist of that moment? Could not find a way to shorten that in any way. The reason this is on here is because obviously when you have your main character, you want to be furthering his story in the best way you can. And this was also a very hard one for me to do, because I do feel that both of these scenes do support the protagonist in some way, right? In Avengers Endgame, you have Cap's last stand. He's ready to go down fighting when they bring him back up, and then he gets his moment to say Avengers assemble and lead everyone into battle. And then in No Way Home, you have Tom Holland getting to rally his troops and teach them how to work together and really be a team. So it was kind of a hard competition. That said, I did have to give it to Avengers Endgame for this one. While seeing Tom get to step into that leadership role with these other Spider-Men, I think seeing Cap's last stand with his shield destroyed, all the other Avengers are defeated, it's just him and then thousands of Thanos' troops before he finally gets back up and he gets to lead everyone. I think that from a character standpoint, you cannot top that. It's also a scene that shows why Captain America is such a great superhero. So as much as I wanted to give it to Spider-Man, I had to give it to Avengers Endgame. Alright, 1 category left. We are tied 2 and 2 in this one. Now the 5th category is going to come to hype factor. How excited did I get watching it? How hyped up was I? And this was a rough category to do, because as mentioned earlier, both these moments got me really pumped up. And while I do feel from a fan service standpoint that No Way Home takes it, I think that from a hype moment, Avengers Endgame has to take it. And part of the reason of that ties back in to almost all of these questions where we have Cap's last stand, right? It's over. It looks like Cap's about to die, but he's going to take as many of them down with him as he can. And then from a relevance to the plot standpoint, they have been trying this entire movie to bring these people back from the dead. And so yes, seeing all three Spider-Men together, while I did say on rewatches that's really fun to see, I do think the more hyped up thing, just purely from how it both wraps up everything and is an exciting moment and it pays off 11 years of storytelling, it has to go to Portals from Avengers Endgame. And there we have it. Avengers Endgame is going to take the victory today with 3, whereas Spider-Man had 2. I do love both of these scenes. I love both of these movies. They are great. I love rewatching these scenes. But at the end of the day, when you have an odd number, you can't have a tie and only one could win. And that victory did go to Avengers Endgame. So guys, what do you think? Which of these 2 scenes is your favorite? Let me know down in the comments below. Also leave a like on this video, subscribe, click on the bell icon to receive all notifications from the MCU HQ. That's going to be it. Have a great day, guys.